Hi guys, back again with another video, and it's another top 10 list of my favorite episodes of a particular TV show, and in this case it is Penny Dreadful. Penny Dreadful was out a few years ago and only lasted about 3 seasons, but it's oh, and once again, spoilers. And it's a show that deals with classic movie monsters like Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, but putting it all in the same contemporary Victorian England setting, like late 1800s, and they reference Jack the Ripper as having, like, is the Ripper back, or is Jack the Ripper back? So late 1800s, not too far removed from the Whitechapel murders. But the way they work in the movie monsters works very well, because you have Dr. Frankenstein, you have Dracula eventually, you have Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, Dorian Gray. There's rumors that had it continued past season 3, you would have had the Mummy, because you had one of the characters going off to Egypt. But that season 4 never materialized, and I still think it had a perfect ending to the series, and it's one of the few series endings that, and I'll go into this again when I get to the series finale, that ends with the end instead of just cutting to credits or title screen or whatever. I want to say that's all the classic. There's witches in there. I think that's all the classic movie monsters or bad guys. If another one pops up, I'll mention it. Anyway, we will start with number 10. 10 is And They Were Enemies. This is season 2, episode 10. And this is the season 8, 10, 9. This is season 2 finale. Season 1 had 8 episodes, season 2 had 10 episodes, and then season 3 scaled back to 9 episodes. So season 2, episode 10 was the season 2 finale. And this is where Vanessa ends up fighting against the, what do they call them? The Nightcomers, Nightbringers, or whatever. But it's basically the coven of witches that want Vanessa for themselves, for the Dark Lord, or they're going to kill her. But they also trap Dr. Frankenstein and Malcolm elsewhere in their castle, and then, like, Ethan and Zembene come to her rescue, but it ends up coming down to her versus the head witch. 1 second. And it's just a great ending to season 2, where after, like, which unfortunately leads to like Ethan and Zembene, I always mispronounce his name. Malcolm's friend, colleague, manservant kind of thing. They get trapped in a stairwell, and Ethan turns into a werewolf. He's the Wolfman, and ends up killing him. And then after everything ends, he turns himself into the police and gets extradited, and is on a ship back to the U.S. to be taken back to be stand trial. Probably just ended it, and in actuality to be sent back to his father, who he doesn't want to go back to. So just all in all, a great episode. That's number 10. Number 9, we have season 1, episode 7. This is the second last episode of season 1. And this is where Ethan, again, I did my little summaries, and this one is where Ethan exercises Vanessa. Vanessa spends a good portion of season 1 sort of possessed, and it gets worse towards the end of season 1. And just out of the blue, as a last resort, Ethan kisses like a cross on his neck, or a little whatever pendant he has around his neck, and performs an exorcism and successfully exorcises the demon that was possessing Vanessa. And then just you see him walk down the stairs and out of the house. And it's a great episode, and a great ending to the episode. And it leads into what they have to do at the end of season 1, which is confront a bunch of vampires that are holding Mina captive, or so you think. And it's essentially that episode in a nutshell. Again, there's certain scenes that make me love the episode, and that's why they're on this list. So I'm not going to talk about the entire episode, just key points mostly. That's number 9. Excuse me. Number 8 is Resurrection. This is season 1, episode 3. And in season 1, you're introduced to Dr. Frankenstein, and he has just brought back a new person to life, names him Proteus, or lets him name himself Proteus. And just when you're getting to like the relationship that's developing between the creator and the creation, this monster shows up, rips right through the Proteus's body, and says, "I've come back. Your firstborn son has come back, Father." And it turns out this was Frankenstein's monster, the original one. It doesn't really have a name. The theater people name him Caliban. He names himself John Clare. You only have brief glimpses of what his life was like before. Well, one episode and brief glimpses. So I just put like John Clare's backstory. And this is, in episode 2 is where, the end of episode 2 is where he does that, kills Proteus. But in episode 3, along with threatening Dr. Frankenstein, he gives his whole flashback backstory of what happened after Dr. Frankenstein abandoned him to be just born and in pain and frightened, and then how he survived. And Rory, his name, the guy who plays Frankenstein's monster, John Clare, Caliban, Rory, what is his name? Sorry. Rory Kinnear. I've said this before. I believe I've said this before on the Movie Madhouse podcast, and I'll say it again here. This show is some of the finest acting in all of these actors' careers. Timothy Dalton, Rory Kinnear, who I hadn't admittedly seen in much else. Eva Green, Josh Hartnett, Reed Carney, who I'd never seen in anything else, who's the guy who plays Dorian Gray, and Dr. Frankenstein, Harry Treadaway. It was Sembene. Yeah. Anyway. And it's just a great flashback episode, largely a flashback episode that is so impressive, thanks to Rory Kinnear. So that was number 8. Number 7, number 7 is the Nightcomers. And that's what the Witchers are known as. And this is season 2, episode 3, and this is where Vanessa meets the Cutwife. And this episode, I didn't initially like it, most of it, the first time I went through it. But this is where she meets the Cutwife, played by oh, what's her name? Actress from Star Trek, I believe. Not Star Trek. Patti LuPone plays Joan Clayton. And she, I don't think she was largely known for that. I think she was from what was it called? Life Goes On, or what was that show? Anyway, besides the point. Eva Green, she flashes back to when she met the cut wife. I think they call her the cut wife of Ballantry Moor or something. And she's basically a witch who used to be part of a coven. And Vanessa needs help with she feels the possession inside her, and she needs help getting rid of it. So she goes to this cut wife, and who takes her in reluctantly, but she has sort of like spiritual guard posts around. So like the witches who the cut wife left, the witches who end up fighting against Vanessa at the end of season 2, end up coming to attack them, but they can't get past her defenses. So they decide to enlist the help from the local lords and ladies and try and get the regular people to attack them, and ultimately lynch the cut wife by burning her at the stake. Like I said, spoilers. And let me see if I found it yet. It was way back there. Yeah, well, I was right. Life goes on. But the reason why I like this episode so much is Patti LuPone's performance. And right towards the end, she tells Vanessa, and it's another great set of phrases, because she's warning her, saying that, like, remember, when Lucifer fell, he didn't fall alone. They'll never stop hunting you. They'll come after you. So be true to yourself and stuff like that. And it's just a great, great line. And when I went over the episode again, it's a great episode. So that was number 7. Number 6, we have Above the Vaulted Sky, and this is season 2, episode 5. And what did I write? John Clare confronts Lily, and Rusk questions Ethan. Lily was Josh Hartnett's girlfriend in the first season. Trying to remember her character's original name, but she dies, and Dr. Frankenstein, because of John Clare's insistence and threats, he wants a bride, so he forces him to resurrect her to be his bride, although she doesn't end up cooperating ultimately. And Jean Claire confronts her, and they sort of have a fight between immortals kind of thing, and ultimately it's a very back and forth and very melancholy, bittersweet kind of conversation that they have, or argument, and come to some understanding. But it's just two people acting their asses off in the same room. So that, and Rusk, the guy who plays Inspector Rusk, he's also the guy who plays Robin Longstride, the one who Russell Crowe impersonates in Robin Hood. He's the guy who's like the best friend of King Richard the Lionheart, who ends up being betrayed and killed. That actor, who I hadn't seen in a whole lot else, plays Inspector Rusk in the season 2 and 3 of Penny Dreadful, and he just does an awesome job. And just the way, like, because he only has the one hand, the way he'll like light a cigarette with the matches and snuff it out and stuff. All and light the match, light a cigarette, snuff it out, just all with one hand. And just the way he acts, and he'll use like the match and the smoke as part of when he accentuating points when he's talking, and the cigarettes and stuff. It's just a great piece of acting this guy does. Anyway, that's number 6. Number 5, we have Grand Guignol, season 1, episode 8, the season 1 finale, and this is with the group finds Mina. They end up finding out that they know where to go, that they have to go to the playhouse, the opera house, the theater, or whatever. That's where the vampires are holding up, and likely where they're holding Mina. And it turns out Mina is not being held. She's been turned into a vampire by the Dark Lord. And they end up having to kill her. And what I like most about this episode is, after everything goes down, you have Josh Hartnett's character Ethan in a bar, and two men hired by his father come to apprehend him and take him back, and he ends up turning into the Wolfman for the first time. You only suspected before this, turning into the Wolfman for the first time, and killing both of them, and then waking up in like the snow, not realizing what he'd done. But on the other side, you have Vanessa trying to comfort Malcolm, and you see Timothy Dalton just like completely crumble and collapse, and you see him just collapse into tears, and just doing an amazing piece of acting after having to kill his daughter. Did he kill his daughter? I think he killed his own daughter. Yeah, because she was gonna kill Vanessa. Anyway, great end of season 1. Number 4, we have Ebb Tide, and this is season 3, episode 7. And this is where Dracula turns Vanessa. Vanessa realizes that what's his name in the show? His name in the show is, well, it's Christian Camargo, who's a great actor anyway, and is Dr. Alexander Sweet, and turns out that he is the Dark Lord, aka Dracula. And, well, aka Lucifer's brother, which you find out in another episode, which is higher on this list. Anyway, Vanessa finds out that he's Dracula, and confronts him, and starts saying all these nasty things about him. He just basically turns everything back around on her, saying like, "I love you. I don't want you to serve me. I want to serve you. I've done nothing but admire you and love you," and which he really hasn't. But he ends up convincing her and biting her and turning her into a vampire. But it's just the great back and forth between Eva Green and Christian Camargo. Camargo. Yeah, that accentuates the scene. That's my favorite part of it. Anyway, so that's number 4. Number 3 is the scene, the episode that I'm talking about, that I was referring to, and this is A Blade of Grass, season 3, episode 4. And this is a flashback to Vanessa when her time in the asylum. And it is also like a stellar acting piece, again, by Rory Kinnear. And it's largely, it's almost entirely Rory Kinnear and Eva Green. Eva Green goes to, again, it's Patti LuPone, but she's a descendant of Joan Clayton, because this was a long time ago, and, well, Joan Clayton's character was very old, like hundreds of years old. Anyway, she puts her under a hypnosis and to find out what's wrong with her, ultimately. And she ends up being stuck in her own hypnosis, and she can't get out until she finds her way out on her own, I guess. But it turns out that the orderly that would assist her every day was Rory Kinnear's character, the John Clare, before he died, before he became Frankenstein's monster. Not that he remembers any of this, but him being nice to her on a daily basis, and just a complete 180 from his mean and evil and threatening Jean Clare character, except when he's with Eva Green in the Jean Clare character, because he's very nice with her too, but not with Dr. Frankenstein. But it's just, and at one point in the episode, because it happens a few times in the series where the Dark Lord presents himself and possesses one of her friends, like Timothy Dalton and Josh Hartnett, or presents himself as one of her friends. And does this with Rory Kinnear's character. But he also plays two versions of himself on either side of the padded room. And one of them is Lucifer, and one of them is Dracula, essentially. And that's how she finds out his name, or remembers his name. And it's just amazing. Amazing. Watch the show, especially the episode A Blade of Grass. Oh my God. All right, that was number 3. So number 2, No Beast So Fierce. This is season 3, episode 6, 8, 10, 9. Yeah, okay. And this is where Malcolm kills Ethan's father. Malcolm went to the U.S. to joined up with the Wes Studi, who played, what was his name? The show, Keatonay. Basically, Ethan's adopted native father, and tells Sir Malcolm, it's like, we have to go find our son, because Malcolm is kind of like another adopted father, both of which he'd rather have as a father than his own father, played by Brian Cox, played brilliantly by Brian Cox. Anyway, after they're having dinner at Brian Cox's character's house, the family home, and then Brian Cox decides, you're gonna atone for your sins, and he takes him to the chapel where Ethan had set up the natives to slaughter his father's family and everything, and he basically goes over everything and says, you're gonna atone for this, or I'm gonna kill you. And Ethan's basically like, go ahead and kill me, because I'm not atoning for shit. Anyway, and they end up in a gunfight, Ethan and Malcolm, and what's his father's character's name? I'm trying to remember if they say. Jared Talbot. Anyway, and Ethan can't kill his father, so Malcolm does. And towards the end of the episode, he did what Ethan couldn't, and it's just a great episode. Again, accentuated largely by Brian Cox's character's monologue, going over the events. Stellar. And that was number 2, and we're down to number 1. Number 1 is The Blessed Dark, and this is season 3, episode 9, and this is the series finale. This is the one that I mentioned before, that the first season finale that I've ever seen, where not only does it cap off the series beautifully, but it actually ends with the end. And this one is the final confrontation with Ethan, Dr. Frankenstein, Sir Malcolm, going after Dracula to rescue Vanessa, and them not fighting. Oh, also with, what's her name? I think it's Catriona Hartigan, Perdita Weeks' character, and they're all getting pretty soundly beaten, and until Ethan finds another way upstairs to go after Vanessa. And they have their own little heart-to-heart, and she ends up saying, "You're going to have to kill me." And he does. And him carrying her out, Dracula sees that and basically gets the hell out of there. But then, like, the deadly plague the deadly smog that's plaguing the city, killing people, leaves, and because that's what was rumored to happen if Vanessa ever got turned to the dark side, I guess. But you've got Malcolm and Ethan comforting each other, and them all at Vanessa's funeral, and then when they leave, you got Jean Claire kneeling at her grave, and the episode and the series ending with Jean Claire is sort of like he's narrating the scene, but he's reading a poem, I believe, that fits the scene very beautifully. And it's also the only episode of the entire series where it opens with a woman singing, a mother singing to her child in an alley, and it leads into the opening credits, but not the usual opening theme song. It just continues with the song she's singing, and it has it's just the best opening I've ever seen to an episode. Opening credits I've ever seen to an episode, and I wish it was throughout the whole thing, but that wouldn't make it special. Yeah, just one of the best series finales ever. Anyway, so that is it for that one. So like, comment, subscribe, all are welcome, and I'll see you next time. Toodles.